Hello. In the previous module, we have been discussing that how do we describe our data. We looked at different other methods. In this specific module, we will be talking about that how do we describe the data by looking at its shape. We have discussed it in terms of histogram and frequency distributions. Frequency distributions are not always going to give us the very good picture regarding the shape of the distribution. Though, with a keen observation, one can easily find out that how the data will be looking like. Over here, we can observe in our histogram that there is this peak, and on the both sides of this peak, the data is very much organized. It's kind of balanced on the both directions of this peak. But it's not always going to be like this. In this histogram, for the frequency distribution of total length of hospitalization, we can see that we got this frequency right here, and there are a lot of observations are on the extreme right, which makes this shape a bit unbalanced, unlike the one we just observed in the previous slide. Moreover, like here in the histogram of age of respondents in a clinical study, it's again, this picture is not really smooth and not very kind of balanced in the middle. Here we can see that there are a few observations which are far from the peak to observation, the maximum observation towards the left side. So this shows that in the real data, we may not always going to get the best picture that is balanced on the both sides of the peak. So data distributions may be classified on the basis of whether they are symmetric or they are asymmetric. A symmetric distribution are the ones where right side and the left side both are the mirror images of each other. As you see in the three pictures given below, in the A, it's mirror image from the line of symmetry. In B, it's also the mirror image. And for C, it's also the mirror image. But there's a special case that when a symmetric distribution with a single peak and a bell shape, that is known as a normal distribution. And from now on, our major focus is going to be towards this kind of a shape where there's only one peak. So the other type of shape is asymmetric distribution. These asymmetric distributions are just the departure from the symmetry. When the left half or the right half of the graph, that could be histogram or a frequency polygon of the distribution, are not mirror images of each other, the distribution is asymmetric. Like in these two pictures, we can see that the peak goes right here, and there is this tail on the right side, and there is this tail on the left side for this left skew picture. So if a graph of a distribution is asymmetric, the distribution is said to be skewed. If a distribution is not symmetric, though we call it skewed, because its graph extends to further to the right than to the left. That is, if it has a long tail, this tail is towards the right. This type of shape are known as right skewed or positively skewed. If we superimpose this histogram by a frequency curve, we can observe the similar type of picture developing out of it. And over here, it also shows that there is a tail towards the right. So even if we are observing it from the histogram or we are observing it from the curve, both ways, there is a tail to the right side. Therefore, this type of graphs or this type of distributions are called positively skewed distributions. Then the other type of skewed distribution is negatively skewed distribution. That if a distribution is not symmetric because its graph extends further to the left. That is, if it has a long tail to the left. And we can see the same thing in this histogram as well. That in this histogram, if we draw a frequency curve over it, we can see that there is a tail to the left. And both of these type of shapes are called negatively skewed distributions. There's another method, another measure to see the shape of the distribution, which is known as the kurtosis, where kurtosis is a Greek word meaning bulging. It refers towards the peak. So kurtosis, there are different measures of kurtosis which help us to look at the shape of the distribution considering the peak of the curve. So over here, we can see in the diagram below that there is this curve that has the highest peak is called leptokurtic, the other one is called mesokurtic, and the third one is called platykurtic. Mesokurtic is a distribution whose kurtosis is similar to the normal distribution. And we already know that it's a bell-shaped and it is symmetric. So the peak is neither high nor low. It is used as a reference for other two shapes with reference to the peak of the distribution. The other type of peak is platykurtic. Such distributions whose kurtosis is lesser than mesokurtic are called platykurtic distributions. For platykurtic distributions, tails are thin and slender, whereas this prefix platy means broad, and we can see this curve is pretty broad here. That's why we call it's a platykurtic distribution. The third kind of kurtosis is leptokurtic. Leptokurtic distributions, they have their kurtosis which is greater than mesokurtic distributions, where tails of such distribution are thick and heavy, and this leptokurtic distribution are named by the prefix lepto, meaning skinny, as its tail over here are very closer to each other. That's why they are leptokurtic distributions. All these examples I have shared right now, they all show a different forms, different shape, different peaks for a symmetric distribution. But kurtosis is not only for the symmetric distribution. A positively skewed distribution can also be leptokurtic, platykurtic, or mesokurtic. And similar way, a negatively skewed distribution it can also be leptokurtic, mesokurtic, or platykurtic. While conducting a statistical analysis, it is very important to know the shape of the distribution. And many statistical methods, they do vary according to the shape. Thank you.